like to call to order the open meeting of the Northborough School Committee, K through 8. Today is January 7th, and the time is 6:32 p.m. We are going to start with a recognition of retirees prior to audience sharing.
Yes. So this evening we have Jen Callahan, who's not retiring.
I was like, wait. What?
Mr. Sean Carey is now a retiree.
Thank you for coming back.
January, when was your last day?
December 23rd.
December. Yeah. So I was going back through Sean's file, and he began his work in 1993. And I was reading the appointment letter from Bob Bellican. It was conditional on ed reform passing and the money coming through. So, and Sean has been an educator in our district for over 3 decades. I also had a chance to look at Sean's references when he applied in 1993. I read some of your references from the folks that used to be Harvard. And they all spoke about Sean's relationships he built with the students in that short period of time. I think a hallmark of Sean is the relationships he built with his students. He cares deeply about the kids and making sure that they do well academically, but also well as people. I think Sean receives a number of emails from former students talking about the impact he made on their lives. And I think if you're an educator, that's like the greatest gift you can be given. And I think Sean has been the benefactor of many of those gifts. So, Sean, we wish you well. We thank you for all you've done. We wish you the best. And we always need substitutes. Token of our appreciation, this is a soccer ball.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Take care, Sean.
Bruce is not.
Okay, so do you want to hold off there? Okay. Okay, next up we have audience sharing. Is there a good place for Mitch to, you want to come grab a seat?
If you'd like.
Yeah, sure.
We don't have a nameplate.
I was going to say, did you bring your name tag?
Yeah.
I think if I end up getting a nameplate here, it means I've come too much. There's no probably can't. I don't care whether anybody sees me or not.
You can't really see. If you ever watch the videos back, you can't really see much anyways. It's like we're all like little mice in the background.
Mitch Cohen, 12 Whitney Street. I know the school calendar item is on the agenda tonight. Everyone here knows my thoughts on it. I'm not going to reiterate any of those. I want to primarily thank Superintendent Martineau for attending the menorah lighting that Northborough had back 2.5 weeks ago. It was noticed and it was appreciated very widely. So that was great. Thank you very much for being there, Greg. And great to meet your wife. I also want to make mention of what we were joking about just a moment ago, is the distance between here and there. I'm going to make the same comment I did at the joint combined meeting back a few weeks ago. You can't hear from over there. It's really hard. Please work hard at making, you're an inviting group. You really are. That doesn't convey well if you want to come and listen to the meetings because you can't hear. So I would really encourage the chair to work with whoever it is, across the district to put some sort of simple sound amplification system in place so audience, when they're in person, can hear. The videos that you have recorded, these microphones are fantastic. These are the perfect microphones to use for this. Those come across great. You don't do public comment remotely, and you have to be here for comment, but you can't hear. So I would really encourage everyone to work on that. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further audience sharing, we'll move into new business. We've got principal reports with Dr. Coakley.
Hello. Hi. I will try to speak loudly today. This is important stuff. So I'm here to do the principal's report this month. So we'll start with Lincoln Street.
I'm doing it for Joan. I got it. I got it.
Who would you like to have help you? You have an option.
I'll do it and I'll see.
Bryce, do you mind if I go sit?
Please? No, if it's really, yeah, please. Yeah, of course.
I can share my screen.
Is it even hard to hear my voice back there?
Your voice carries really
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And there are plenty of free chairs as well, there and here, if that's
right.
an option as well.
Yeah,
This is, as long as you're okay with it.
I'm
Yeah.
totally fine with it.
Thank you.
Might be a good option for the future.
Totally.
Set up some rooms.
The sound amplification we should be able to figure out.
I think ANCAT has one we can
Okay,
set up.
great.
Although, what's the new name of it? Is it? Change the name.
Northborough's CC.
All right, Mary.
So we'll start with Lincoln Street. So you'll see the first picture on your left, grade 2 students working on wit and wisdom writing assignment with a peer editing buddy. The middle, slime assembly to celebrate the fun run fundraising goal to support the new bottle filler being installed in the Lincoln Street cafeteria. And our kindergartners, students celebrating Pajama Day as part of the school-wide Spirit Week. For Peasley, up on the top left, Wingmasters Enrichment Program, experts teach our students about birds, how birds hunt, fly, and survive in the wild. This is one of the many programs supported by our PTO every year. To the right, these are our fourth graders, winter songs and poems during their annual Cookies and Cocoa celebration. Thank you to families who have come out to support our students and who bake delicious treats to share. Thank you to Mrs. Whalen, our music teacher, and our fourth grade teachers for planning the wonderful event. The last one is a picture of one of our panda families. We gathered to continue building relationships, practice listening, and the importance of a circle during our December community meeting. At Proctor, on the left, the members of the Proctor Spirit Squad accept the banner from their PTO during the December Penguin Huddle, celebrating Proctor being named as a school of recognition by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. In the middle, 5th grade tech night, where students programmed robots to compete in BattleBots competition. And then on your right, Mrs. McDonald's 4th grade scientists during a squid dissection. Yummy. At the Z School, the 4th graders visited Lowell Mills as part of their learning on the Industrial Revolution Unit. And in the middle, the 1st graders are writing equations to explain what's happening in a picture during math. And on your right, the 3rd graders shared their drama performance on With the Snow with the school community. At Milliken, under the Empowered Learner goal, students work together to use simple tools safely in technology engineering classes. For healthy and balanced learners this month, Rhodey, the Roadrunner, watched as the girls' basketball team hosted Grafton for their home opener. Under the Equity of Opportunity goal, students study for their oral Spanish assessment. And then finally, under the Educator Learning and Leadership goal, ESPs work collaboratively to plan interventions for a student's academic success. Any questions? It all sounds very familiar, even though I'm not in these buildings every day. It's so interesting to see that things are very similar to what we're doing.
Well, and there weren't any pictures of like kids pulling their hair out to get out for the break or anything, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, those 2 days, it was a quick last week,
Yeah.
so I think that definitely made a difference.
Yeah, thank you. I'll take any questions, this committee?
It's just good to hear of all the updates. We really thank you, Dr. Coakley.
I think it was one of the best principal presentations this year.
Totally.
Yes.
Raising the
Here,
bar.
for sure.
Raising the bar. Thank you, Dr. Coakley.
Thank you. I'm going to stay for a little bit.
Okay,
Awesome.
thank you.
If you prefer a chair over
No, I'm okay
the
back
bench, there's some extras.
We've got an MCAS presentation.
We do.
We're ready for it.
All right. Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to present. Some of it will sound very familiar, but some additional data. So just recaps of reminders of things that you know, but the Massachusetts, or the MCAS, which is our Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System, is an accountability system, and the purpose is to give us good information for families, for the community, for the public, to inform, how we invest and where we need to improve and where we're having successes. It is also used by DESE at, a state level to look at what's going on, and part of kind of the whole federal accountability system as well. For us at a district level, it is one of many sources of data, and is a sort of single data point that is very helpful, but certainly not the only data that we use. We are always guided by these key documents and statements of our mission and our vision and our strategic objectives, and so I just think it's important as we think about MCAS that it is a source of information about how we're doing, and it still aligns back to how are we doing in terms of our students as critical and creative thinkers, as communicators, collaborators, all of those things. So we really try to keep situating it in the larger set of work that we're trying to accomplish. Some updates specific to this year. The 8th graders took this civics assessment. It was the second time that they have taken the assessment, but it was the first time that we received scores. The year before they took it, but it was a pilot year. This year we received scores, but it was not part of the accountability report on the school level. And theoretically next year it will be part of kind of the accountability reporting. This year our participation rates remained high. We have almost all kids participating in the assessments. And as was mentioned in Dr. Coakley's report, a really exciting update this year was that the Proctor Elementary School was named as a school of recognition based on their progress towards accountability targets. They were one of 55 schools in the Commonwealth that were named as schools of recognition. So that's really exciting, and I think really important for teachers to feel that positive feedback on the hard work that they're doing. Just a reminder of who are our students as we talk about these test results. I think it's, again, a similar story to what we've been seeing in recent years, but you can see that our population is fairly steady overall at the top. But then as we look at the subgroups of who are our students, we continue to have the exciting trend of growing diversity in terms of our special populations, and that is adding to the richness of our schools, and I think we see that in the experiences in the classroom. I think everyone's pretty familiar with this, but this is just a reminder that in terms of how MCAS is scored, there are 4 levels that, and this is at the student level, but then we look at aggregate scores where we look at averages of where students are scoring, and they have a scaled score, which is what these numbers are along the bottom, the 440, 470, 500, and then they fall within one of these levels, exceeding expectations, meeting expectations. Those 2 categories, the blue and green, are sort of considered passing, and then partially meeting and not meeting are at levels where kids are not completely meeting grade level expectations. So what I'll do, as I've done in the past, is take us through English language arts, then math, then science, then civics, and with each one talk about achievement, so what levels are kids performing at, and then also growth scores, and so how much growth are we seeing from year to year. So first in English language arts, and I will do this by showing you first a graph and then a table that have similar related information about achievement levels. So this has 3 years worth of data per grade level. It's a little hard to see, but what you're looking at right now is 3rd grade. So that's 23, 24, and 25. And then that's 4th grade, 5th grade, and continuing up with 6th, 7th, and 8th. So just as a reminder, the red and orange are not meeting or partially meeting, and the green and blue are meeting expectations or exceeding expectations. As you look at these, we often look at a single grade level and say, how are we doing compared to last year? But another way that we look at the results is to look at a cohort of students. And so what I circled there was, if we think about the 6th graders in 2023 became the 7th graders in 2024, became the 8th graders in 2025. And so it's important to remember, when we look at a single grade level, we're talking about different cohorts of students, but it does sometimes help us to say, how are we doing in 4th grade, for example, at teaching the standards? But we have to be careful and remember that we're comparing different kids. And then sometimes we're looking at the same kids. So similar information, what we have here is that blue and green, which is the percent of students who are meeting or exceeding at each grade level in 22, 23, 24, 25. I fit one more year on here. In the graph, it starts to get too busy. So overall, what you see in these results is that our achievement levels really mirrored the state trends in ELA. We were either a little bit higher than 2024 at each grade level, or stayed about the same, which is mostly what we saw in the state results as well. Again, you can look at this by looking at a cohort of kids, and then you would look diagonally. And you would say, so what did the achievement look like for a group of kids? Or here's, another example. And I would say that, again, we're, mostly staying pretty steady. And I think one of the things to recognize with ELA is that we have had a lot of changes. And so staying steady is a good thing. There's times when a lot of curriculum changes lead to dips, and we have not really seen dips. And so now we're sort of getting a lot of these things in place and hoping to see then the benefits of that in the years to come. This is just an aggregate 3rd through 8th grade, which is a score that people talk about often. So I thought it was helpful to just share that. And again, compared to comparable districts, our results, again, mostly stayed level or showed slight improvement in ELA, which was the same as many of the districts around us. The way we look at growth, as a reminder, is that the state calculates something called the student growth percentile. And they do this for every single student. And they can't do it until 4th grade, because what they're doing is looking at past results, comparing students to others who had similar results in the state, and then saying, in the next year, did they grow more than their peers who had similar previous results, grow less than, or grow sort of on an average pace? And they basically just rank those kids who had similar past results. And by the time they get to 5th grade, they use 2 years worth of past results when they have them. 4th grade, they're just using 1 year. So they have for every child, we have a growth percentile for ELA, a growth percentile for math, and then we can also look at it as average growth percentiles for whole classes, for whole grade levels, for whole schools. So in terms of our growth percentile, first I'll just show you with achievement and growth together. There's 4 quadrants here. You have growth across the x-axis on the bottom. So when you go on the left side of this graph, we're talking about below average growth. 50% means you were sort of right in the middle, average growth. When you go to the right of the graph, you're talking about higher growth. On the y-axis, we have the percent of kids who are meeting or exceeding. So if we're in these different quadrants, we're talking about low achievement, low growth, or high achievement but low growth, or high achievement, high growth, high achievement, low growth. We are sort of smack dab in the middle right now. The star represents the state. The state is by definition always at 50th percentile for growth because of the mathematical calculation. But they're a little bit lower in terms of achievement, and we're kind of right in the middle. In terms of our growth percentiles, this is our average student growth percentile by grade level. Again, at most grade levels, we were, it's a little dangerous to compare year to year with growth, but we're really right in that middle range of what would be considered average growth. You know, so in that sort of plus or minus between the 40s and 50s in all of our grades in ELA. The other thing that we're always looking at is then disaggregating the data and looking by student groups. And there are many different ways that we can slice the data. And even as we look at this right now, we're looking across the whole district. There's much, I would say that the principals and teachers, as they drill down looking at the school level, then the grade level, then at a class and at individual students, they see even more specifics. But what you can see, if we look at the average scaled score, which is again achievement, what level did they achieve at, and this SGP is that student growth percentile. We do have some subgroups where our average scaled score is lower than their counterparts. So for example, you can look on this graph and you're able to see like low-income students as compared to non-low-income students are down below. I know the font is really tiny. And you can see that our scaled score for low-income students is lower than our scaled score for non-low-income students. I think we always have work to do in closing those gaps. One thing that is really promising is that our average growth percentiles are not, they're a little bit lower in some cases, but in some cases they're higher. They're really in the same ballpark. Now, to close a gap, we're gonna have to get those growth scores higher than their counterparts. We have to grow kids faster to close that gap. But often you see low achievement, low growth. So when we're seeing lower achievement but average growth, I think that's a really good sign as well. In mathematics, I'm going to show you sort of the same information. We've got, in lots of ways, very similar kind of story. This is our math achievement. So we've got 3rd grade, 4th grade, and on up to 8th grade. And you know, if you look at any one grade level, like it's really kind of remarkably steady in many respects. And then, you know, as you look at the cohorts of kids as they move through the years, it is also like it's sort of a story of kind of pretty steady. And so I think some of it is, okay, now how do we like change places where we want to change? So when we look at it by grade level, this is again achievement, so percent of students that are meeting or exceeding. There's a mix. We have some grades where we're showing increases. We have some grades where, compared to 2024, the achievement levels went down a few percentiles, and that is actually similar at the state, where some things stayed the same, some things went down a little bit. And then we can also look by cohorts and, you know, really ask the questions of like, what's going on for a group of students. This is, again, in mathematics, we've had change in curriculum, and so one of the things we're always looking at is to see, do we see any impacts of that? And I would say that in elementary, we had only some classes that had changed last year, so we wouldn't expect really anything at the level of aggregate scores. In the middle school, the 24 and the 25 data is since we have changed curriculum. And in Northborough, I think there's, again, it's fairly steady. And so there's not really sort of a curriculum story there right now. But it's really us looking at it and saying, how do we increase our percentages of students who are meeting or exceeding? This is the aggregate 3rd through 8th, compared to comparable neighboring districts or comparable districts in the state. It really, when you look at the aggregate achievement, it was a pretty similar story of math scores staying relatively flat. As a state, and it is true for us as well, we're not really yet back to pre-pandemic, which is a question that is often asked. We're getting closer, like we're heading back, but we're not quite there, nor is the state. So that's something that we sort of keep checking on. This is that same graph, and we're in a pretty similar place, a little bit edging into the higher growth, higher achievement, but really pretty much right in the middle with sort of average growth. And again, this is aggregate 3 through 8. So, you can look at this at a much finer grain, and the schools do, and there's a lot more information there. And these are the growth percentiles by grade level. So fairly consistent again, and from 24 to 25, and sort of across the years. And then disaggregated by groups, it's a very similar story to ELA, where we do have disparity between some of our subgroups and the broader population in terms of looking at those average scaled scores, and have very similar growth. So again, we're always looking for what are the interventions and the opportunities to increase the rate of growth for our students who are not achieving at as high a levels, so that we can close those gaps. In science, technology, and engineering, we only assess in 5th grade and 8th grade. So on the left side, you're seeing 5th grade from 22, 23, 24, and 25. And on the right side, you're seeing 8th grade. And you can see that we historically perform well in science, technology, and engineering, and have continued that. Again, not like it can vary from year to year with different cohorts of students, but have pretty strong performance there. And it is, again, similar to the state. The state showed an increase in 5th grade by 1%, a decrease in 8th grade by 2%. We are sort of in a similar ballpark of up a few percent in 5th grade, stayed steady in 8th grade compared to 24. We don't have growth scores for science, technology, and engineering because the gap is too great. They don't calculate a growth score from 5th grade to 8th grade. But we do have the average scaled scores, and we do, still continue to look at our subgroups of students. We also get additional information from the state in our school accountability reports that goes even more fine-grained and looking at what the state calls our lowest performing students in all of these different categories, so that we can really look in very specific ways at individual students and how we support them. This was our first year of results for civics for 8th grade. I think our civics teachers were really excited to actually get scores back this year and to see that there was a lot of success with the assessment. It's 8th grade is a lot. They're now taking science, civics, ELA, and math all in the same year, so it's a lot of testing, and I think that is one of the challenges that we feel in 8th grade. But I do think that the civics teachers also appreciate their students being assessed on their knowledge and being able to get this kind of feedback. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword in that respect. But same achievement levels, and I think we're still learning about this assessment and sort of how to make sense of the data. This was kind of our first time getting data, and we didn't get a lot of specifics. So in terms of how we use all these results, what we're sharing here is, again, aggregated across the district. But when we're working with this within our schools, we're looking at it and slicing it in a lot of different ways, whether it's looking at subgroups, whether it's looking by grade level, by classroom, individual student results, really asking ourselves questions about, you know, are there times when a student's MCAS scores tell us that they actually need acceleration or that they need support? Do they match what we're seeing in terms of their day-to-day performance? Or does it make us ask questions because it doesn't match what we would have expected? And we're always trying to triangulate with other assessment results. We have lots of other screeners and assessments in the beginning, middle, and end of the year. So bringing those results together and thinking about kind of all the different ways we can support students. Teachers also take a deep dive in looking at particular items. And it is, although it is only one test, they can see patterns, particularly across years. So this is just an example of what an item analysis graph looks like. So this is, I think this was actually a math assessment. I can't remember it. I didn't label it. But this would be one grade level. Let's say this is 4th grade math. And you have item 1, 2, 3, 4. The light blue line is the school's average percent correct on that item. And the black line is the state. And so they can look item by item, and many of the items are released. So the teachers can actually look at the problem. They know what standard was being tested, how it was asked, what the multiple choice options were, or if it was a short answer. And then they'll pick out certain problems like item number 8, where they'll say, that's like one of the only items or one of the few items where we did worse than the state. What's going on there? And then we will sometimes watch year upon year to say, wow, that was measurement. And we had trouble with measurement last year too. What's going on with measurement if we're seeing this consistently in 4th grade that we're, underperforming in measurements? So we look at that level of item analysis, and that's where sometimes that is an important comparison year upon year, even though they're different cohorts of kids, because it helps us recognize things curriculum-wise and instructionally. So that is another thing that we're doing with the results. I'm sure Dr. Coakley has other thoughts too in the questions, but there's lots we can learn from this, and we try to find the right balance of learning from it, taking it seriously and valuing it, and recognizing its place within all of the other things that we're doing and that give us feedback on how we're doing for kids. So, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Questions from the committee?
My only thing is, do we know, is the state doing anything about getting the results quicker? It's like, there's so many things that you could have, like real-time responses. And the fact that the kids take it in April, May, we don't get the results until
The fall.
September, October. It's just.
My understanding is that there was some experimenting with grading with, I don't know if it was AI, it's starting to be,
Yeah.
but I don't know kind of where they are with that. But that is one of the trade-offs of these sort of large-scale assessments, but that's also why we have other data points that we're using, that we have immediate results, you know, and that really give us much more information on kind of the day-to-day learning. But I can't say that I think they have a solution in the works for.
It's too bad.
I think one of the areas where we've improved as a district is making sure that educators have the data of the students who are in front of them as quickly as possible. So the data work that we've done with Analytic View has helped us provide teachers with that data at their fingertips, where in prior years it was really hard to get teachers' data. So that's one improvement we've made, but I agree it would be nice to have the data sooner so we can analyze and assess and decide what our next steps are.
Even for just the kids' sake
Yeah.
too. I mean, there is some pressure put on the kids when they're taking the tests, you know? And they don't, like, you're never gonna see the results, don't worry about it, like, you know, because it's like so far from it.
Yep.
I feel like we've had this discussion in prior years, but now I need to answer this question, but I can't remember. Whenever I see the data going across and understanding those different students, for example, if I'm looking at 5th grade, do you ever combine those percentages that you get and look at how much variation you've had over the years to see if that's a significant change or not? Like, because sometimes it goes from 50 to 52, one would assume that's not significant, or like 50 to 62 or something might be or might not be. I don't know. So I was just wondering if you did that analysis, and all my other questions you answered.
We do, and we do then also sometimes slice it different ways, you know, where, again, like, you know, a particular school might look at just their school to see if, because sometimes as you aggregate things, you then have to sort of say, like, well, what's pulling something up or down? And are there maybe 2 stories here? So sometimes it's about actually not just is it significant that this went up that much, but it's what's really going on, where there might have been a change, and that is usually about drilling down to looking at it at a more specific level. But it is, and then it's 36 questions, and so we always have to also ask the, like, N of what, how many kids are in a particular category. So when the percentage changed, what does that represent in terms of the number of kids that are in a different category? But
Right. Yeah, it would just be interesting to see if the percentage of passing went up. Does that stay within a range of the variability you see over the years in grade assessment or whatever it is, or not? Does it? Yeah.
Yeah, we could definitely do that, where we did sort of more of a plus delta from year to year and looked at that, the variability of the plus delta.
Right, but I get what you're saying too. There's a lot in there. And as you pointed out, you're either comparing different kids across the same curriculum, say 5th grade, or you're comparing the same kids across different curriculums. So they've got different teachers, they've got different resources, they've got different, all of that. So yeah. Love this. Thank you.
We'll go you first, and then we'll go you, Joni.
Yeah, so I think what you said, Stephanie, about, you know, having some student groups, for example, maybe high needs or low income, and having slightly lower growth percentiles, and sort of that question of, okay, they have slightly lower growth percentiles than, say, you know, high income or general education students. So how do we close that gap? Or it's not really closing the gap, but it's increasing the student growth percentile by even more. I mean, that's the question we ask all the time, right? So how do we accelerate the learning for our highest needs students? And I know we have so many people working to do that, but are there specific things that have been discussed given this specific data, or will those discussions happen?
Those discussions, I think, are sort of always happening, and they vary at the different levels. So just to give a couple of examples, I think the work that we're doing with early literacy related to PRISM, which doesn't show up in this because that's pre-K through 3, so maybe a little bit in 3rd grade. Ultimately, the state's goal with the PRISM grant is to impact 3rd grade MCAS scores as one demonstration of the impact, but a lot of the work we're doing related to that has to do with not only improving tier 1 instruction of what are all kids getting, but then what are the interventions we're doing for kids who need more, whether it's by classroom teachers or by interventionists or by reading specialists. So that's one area, and that, will trickle up the grades. And then same thing with math, where we're looking at what are our math interventionists doing. We now have the math specialist role, and really one of the things they're really looking at is how are they really looking closely at, again, not only tier 1 instruction, but what are we doing with students who struggle. So those are definitely areas we use our Title I funding to help with support math intervention, and we're always asking the question, and we've had lots of these conversations of like, well, we can only do so much, so where do we target? Are we targeting early, the youngest kids, and trying to build that strong foundation? Are we trying to catch kids late elementary before they're going to middle school? So we're constantly reassessing and saying, who are we targeting with those Title I funds? So those are just a few examples of kind of that ongoing conversation.
Are there any current programs offered for students who don't qualify for extended school year, but who would benefit from extra time to grow their skills during the summer?
In terms of, so not, kids who are not on IEPs, I think you're saying.
Correct, yeah. Students who still have either low achievement or low growth for a variety of qualify for an IEP.
Yeah, so in terms of summer specifically, we have our program for our English language learners, but otherwise we have not had specific programming for kids unless they're in ESY or in the English language summer program. But that is something we could.
Do you feel, and maybe you don't have the data, but do you feel like that is a need or an area of growth? Or maybe that's not even an issue?
It's a hard question. Like, I think there's lots of different ways to intervene and make an impact. I mean, Greg and I often talk sort of in these theoretical ways about, like, what if the entire calendar of how schools ran looked different? Like, what would it be like for kids if we didn't take 8 weeks off or more all of a sudden and expect them to come back exactly where they left off? We know that's not what happens. So would it help kids? I'm sure it would. I think it's always asking sort of what do we prioritize and what are the kind of most practical kind of avenues for that impact? But I think they're great questions.
I think one area we're also looking at is do students have access to grade level content, knowledge and skills? So making sure that the students receiving special education services, they have access to the grade level standards so that they can perform on the grade level assessment. So that's been a lot of the work, because what happens is if they're not accessing the grade level content, then we shouldn't be surprised when they don't perform well on the assessment. So
And
we're
it's
looking at
cumulative.
we're looking at ways to make sure that happens, while also making sure that we're meeting the needs of kids in terms of their IEP goals, for example. But that's been a big push. That's been a lot of the work around the curriculum adoption, working with professional learning for our special education teachers, partnering with our reading team. So that's been a big shift. I think any more time on learning that's consistent for students who are trying to accelerate their growth would be helpful. So
Yeah.
something we could look at.
I think that's a great point. And we have some co-teaching happening right now where special educators and gen ed teachers are co-teaching during some of the core curriculum blocks. And that has been part of this effort to really be cognizant of when are we, in the name of catching kids up, actually depriving them of access.
Right.
And then we're creating a bigger gap.
Right.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Joan?
Thank you, Bryce. I have 4 comments and questions. So Stephanie, the first one I had was that I really appreciated comparing the same cohorts in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And it was interesting to see when you looked at the same cohort that even
No, I have the math up and,
I'll try to get it for you, Joan.
Okay. Stephanie, my question on that was, if my memory serves me right, is that we should always try to be in that upper right quadrant. Is that correct?
correct.
When we do a scatter dot like this?
Yep, that is correct.
Okay. So I saw where we were in the state, which is the star. Which one are we as the district?
Blue
Oh,
circle.
that's a great, yeah, sorry, I wasn't explicit about that. So the blue circle is us. And the
Okay.
blue tells us the percent of students who are low income. There's a bar to the, key to the right that shows you the colors in the circle are representative of the percent of students. So we're blue because we're between 11 to 20% low income. And
Okay.
we are at about, we're at 51 for our mean SG, wait, am I getting this backwards? Yeah, 55% of our kids are meeting or exceeding expectations in the aggregate for math, for grades 3 through 8, and we're at an SGP, an average SGP of 51 in terms of our
Okay.
percentile.
So overall, as a district, I mean, you'd like to have that higher in that right quadrant, but we're in a good place to keep showing improvement, correct?
Yes, I mean, we're, showing average growth, like, we're always aiming to push ourselves further up to the right,
Right.
higher
I mean,
and to the
we're
right.
not down below, or we're not where the state level is, which I wouldn't expect us to be. But we're moving, and if next year when you have this presentation, if you could show, if we have shown any more movement going up into that right quadrant, I'd appreciate that for next year.
You and me both, Joan.
I can always give orders. I also like the item analysis, which I think is very, very important. When I worked with the state as a representative on the MCAS grade 5 assessment, we always looked at the questions and even the sample ones before they came into the test to see how they were answered by the different cohorts that you're looking at. And I really like that the staff, and you're promoting that, is to look at the item analysis, which helps us to understand better of how we can improve upon our teaching, and also to look at any, even the great scores that we get, or even the ones that we need some improvement on. You mentioned in math, my last comment is, you mentioned in math we're not back to pre-pandemic levels. How about in ELA?
It's about the same for both, where we're close, but we're not quite back in either one.
And it's hard to predict why, and I do appreciate the time you gave me. I think it was 2 years ago. You gave me a one-on-one tutorial on where the pre-pandemic levels were and how we were doing. Would you say that we, even though we're not back, are we showing improvement getting to that score, to that level where we were?
I don't think you have this graph actually, Keith, but,
No.
I was just putting a graph up that I can send to you, Joan, which is that same 4 quadrants, and I have the 2018 next to the 2025
Okay.
for ELA, and then I have the same thing for math.
Okay, that would be perfect.
And I can send it to you, and we really are quite close. Like, we're not far off of where we were in 2018 in the aggregate. I think, you dig in and you would find small places, but the achievement was a little bit higher and the growth was a little bit higher. We were in the upper right quadrant, but we're, as you said, heading in the right direction.
Good, thank you. Stephanie, thank you for all your detailed answers to my questions. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no,
Thank
thank you.
Joan, I have just a couple comments that are inquisitive of the data themselves, and specifically around what's happening after 4th grade. Anecdotally, and I'd have to dig through this a little bit more, but you've got a kind of a climb up to 4th grade in both ELA and mathematics. And then year over year, you've got this drop the next year when the kids take it in 5th.
You talking ELA or math?
Both. Let's start with math, just so we're both looking at the same numbers. But you know, 2022 to 2025, 2022 and 2025 are only 1 point different in the fourth grade assessment for mathematics. However, 23 and 24 are quite different. And then that same cohort, one cohort in 2023 from fourth grade drops 9 points to fifth grade.
You're in math?
Yep.
Sorry, I'm in ELA.
And then in 2024, that fourth grade drops 11 points into fifth grade. And I realize this is a growth measurement, right? It's a pacing report, essentially. But anecdotally, that's similar to ELA. Like there's a drop and then a kind of a continuation at that more 50-ish number. Is there something dramatically different about the instructional material that's available?
From
Or the
fourth to
instruction provided in fourth grade versus the material and instruction provided in fifth grade?
So for the math, I think we would have to dig in a little bit deeper for last year because
Do you see what I'm pointing to here? though?
yeah, we had a few classes in Northborough. There were, I want to say, 2 schools where fifth grade was the Eureka first year. Oh, in Northborough, there was, I'd have to think about it.
It would
but
be
there were
worth
some-
knowing. I don't need an answer
So,
tonight, but it
yeah.
would be worth knowing.
So it's a question, but if you go back to like 22, 23, you don't see as much of a drop.
Well,
But then
22 to 23 is a drop of 3 points. 23 to 24 is a drop of 9 and then 11. So like it's not moving in the right direction either.
Right, not moving in the right
So
direction.
I don't have,
but
and then it
yeah.
came back down to 57, right? So in 22, the growth rate was 58. In 25, it's come back down to 57, which may be more in line with what you would have been expecting there anyways. And if that's the case, 58 to 55, not a big deal. 57 to 55, not a big deal. 58 to 59, great. But there's an opposite thing happening there.
So this is, I just want to be clear, this is meeting or exceeding.
But it's correct.
Not the
It's the
growth rate.
percentage. This is not. This is the growth. This
Yeah,
is the
this
percentage. Okay.
The achievement.
Thank you.
The achievement.
Yeah.
So, but still,
Yeah.
I guess my curiosity is like, there's got to be some explainable
Yeah,
outcome there that is.
I mean, these are the questions we're always asking ourselves, and I think that sometimes what we end up doing then is looking at things and breaking it down more.
So I would look at fourth at ELA and fourth at mathematics and try and maybe have something for us at some point that just says like, Eureka was in effect, or this was making a change, or the questions on the MCAS changed, or in fourth grade, our kids are able to get to the expectation easier.
Well,
And in
like-
fifth grade, the complication of the additional problem sets create less it meets and exceeds. It's just interesting, just stuck out to me there. Everything else is a regular gradation of percentages, but that is an outlier.
I think we need to look at the MCAS assessment in 2022. So the pandemic was 19, 20.
There was no
Then
assessment.
2021.
21 was a half, like
Yeah.
they did half the
21.
sections.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it
maybe
was
they
the
made it
first
easier
year.
that year, coming back.
22 was the first year. of-
First year back for
Yeah,
MCAS, I believe.
First year back for
Yeah.
MCAS.
So anyway, just curiosity there, it sticks out
Which
to
you
me like a
wouldn't
sore thumb.
predict, like if you were to kind of make a prediction of MCAS scores in 22 for grade 3,
Yeah,
you would predict like a decline.
Yeah.
Because of what they went through.
totally.
Yeah.
that they
Right, but
experienced.
it's showing an interesting affect that is different than that.
Maybe they made the test really, really easy. that
Well,
year.
it's just, I'm
But
looking
then,
at it
like-
going like, that sticks out. I'm not sure what's
But
going
then,
on there.
like, ELA 24 to 25, it goes up
There's one cohort that goes up, correct,
up
but the
7%.
other cohorts all go down. And by a decent amount, right? That
Grade.
60 to 49 is a big jump. That 56 to 49, 7-point difference in
the percent of kids.
percentage is not a small
Yeah.
amount of kids. So anyways, that's all I had there. I wasn't looking for an answer, more just kind of pointing to it and say, that's a curiosity for me.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you,
thank
Stephanie.
you.
All right, moving on to legislative update.
So no major updates, just the governor's budget will be released on January 23rd. That'll be helpful in terms of what we can expect for circuit breaker reimbursement. Also at the town level, education aid. So that will be important for us to get a sense of what the Governor Healy's budget looks like. And then before December break, the Northborough Select Board invited the legislative delegation to talk about Northborough's wishes in terms of legislative priorities. And I believe I provided you with information around what I submitted on the committee's behalf. And it's similar, it's Chapter 70, education reimbursement. It's reimbursing circuit breaker. It's looking at the funding formula to provide more funding, education funding to cities and towns. And then regional transportation. And there were a couple other priorities that I had listed. So I think at this point in time, it's probably more important that we advocate at the legislative level than ever before. Because I think we are going to be seeing some very challenging budget seasons ahead of us, and I think we're in one. And part of the challenge is that the system that we are operating in with Proposition 2.5, the funding formula for funding special education is broken. And we are experiencing that as a town and as a school district in terms of our budgeting process. So we'll continue to advocate. I know I had a conversation with Paul Desmond yesterday. He's going to be writing some draft letters for all three committees to consider and sign and send off to our legislative delegation to advocate on our behalf.
It would be great too, to try to talk to other area school committees and get them on board. I don't know if that would have to go through MASC or whether as, chair could reach out to another chair.
Yeah.
But the more voices saying the same thing, I think the better, because we're not the only district.
Oh,
who's
I
hearing
can't
this.
imagine that we are. Yeah.
I mean, I think across the Commonwealth, districts are struggling to meet the needs of kids based on kind of the funding formulas that they have and what cities and towns are seeing with their budgets. It's really challenging.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
they
you.
did mention that in the select board meeting. I think when the legislatures came, they said pretty much exactly that. So they're at least aware, not that we should absolutely advocate in every way with as many voices as possible.
Yeah.
But it was at least good to hear them voice that.
That's great. Okay. School visits?
So next school committee meeting will be starting a little bit earlier, and we'll be visiting two schools, the Peasley School, to look at Peasley in the current condition and also talk about the Peasley building project and again, to highlight some of the current needs the building has and our hopes and dreams for what it could be or can be. And then a visit to Z Elementary School, and next year we'll be moving preschool to Z Elementary, so take a tour and have Principal Bell show where we plan on reorganizing the school and housing our preschool program.
So you legit mean on February 4th? Okay.
Prior to
I
the-
thought you were saying like between now
No.
and then.
On that day.
Prior to our, yes.
Okay, so what time are you thinking?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock? Okay.
I was thinking 5 to 6. We'll do 20-minute
Bless you.
tours of each of the buildings. I know you all have been in the buildings, but Sebastian,
I've never been in Z, actually.
Z.
Like,
Oh, really?
I think I took my now 6th grader to preschool screening at Z when it was like, that would have been the one time I was in.
Okay, thank you. And moving on to item 5, Artificial Intelligence Study Group.
Sure. So the Joint Policy Committee talked about developing an AI policy. And after some thought and discussion, I think we as a district need to do more study of AI and how it impacts us in terms of our operations, but also in terms of education. So the proposal is to form a AI study group with the region, Northborough and Southborough, do some research on our homework, to bring back to the joint policy subcommittee to think about developing a policy, which most likely will take place next year. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has a task force that it has established. John Parent, our Director of Information Technology, is on that task force, and he has shared that a lot of great guiding documents are being produced and developed that districts can use to do some of this work. So that's the proposal. The region accepted the idea to create an AI study group, and presenting this to Northborough, and I'll also present it to Southborough next week.
Cool.
And no votes.
No votes. You're going to you'll let us know who to volunteer or
Yes.
voluntel?
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Go ahead.
Because the summary says the 2025 to 2026 school year, which we're clearly out of, and then says at the end of their work. So are you just thinking January through June? Or by the time we get it
I
going?
think we'll get started and
Okay.
see, I mean, it probably
Then
will
end
take
it
longer than,
completed. That's kind of what I was thinking. I was interested, and then I was like, oh, I don't,
Quick.
how quick do we need to do this?
Quick.
Because, yeah, just the way it was written, so I want to clarify. Thank you.
I think there is some merit to slowing down and not being an early adopter in this arena.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to old business, we've got an MSBA update.
Sure, so the Peasley Building Committee continues to move its work forward. We had a meeting with architect Flansburgh, who launched kind of the map of what we need to accomplish in the many months ahead. I think in the next 2 to 3 months, it's really around doing the work of visioning, our education vision, getting community and stakeholder input and feedback, really talking about, are we doing, school consolidation, reconfiguration, and then making a recommendation. So we are organizing with Flansburgh. There's an education consultant who will help guide and lead that work. We have not heard, he's not reached out yet, but we will probably hear from that person shortly. And then we'll send out invitations to a wide variety of stakeholders throughout the community of Northborough to participate. And then just the feasibility study allocation increase, so we had to resubmit that to MSBA, and we received notification that it was accepted and approved. So
This is the recovery proposal?
this was the additional money that we added, yeah. And a Z School roof project update, I'll turn it over to Keith for the next two.
Great. At the last meeting, I announced to let you guys know that we had the opportunity to really dig in with our team for the Z project, both from the OPM and the designer perspective. And they've really moved their work forward relatively quickly. So included in the packet is a summary of what their recommendation is. From that memo to now, they've actually backed that up with a refined cost estimate, and it is something I'm going to be able to share with this group this evening. I'll put a little spreadsheet up on the screen for you to see. Hopefully you can see it. I'm sorry, this was not ready in time for the packet, so that's why I'm sharing. And Joan, sorry, I can't double share here. But what this spreadsheet will do is walk through what these estimated costs are, right down to what the bonded amount is being estimated at. So the way that this is going to work is tomorrow, the OPM is going to submit a package, it's called the schematic design package on our behalf to MSBA for their review and ultimate approval, which could happen at their February meeting. And this is kind of how things are breaking down. The first item is the estimated cost of the construction itself, and this will include a rubble roof on top of the flat portions and a shingled roof on top of the pitched portions. It also includes the estimated construction cost for code compliance. The next set of figures are the fees associated with the OPM and architecture fees, coupled with the feasibility that was already done. And the reason why I included that, although asterisked, is it can be included in the reimbursable amount, which is an important thing to understand as we kind of burrow down. So when you total that, the total comes to just shy of 5.4 million, which is the estimated amount that could be eligible for MSBA reimbursement. If we take that figure and we multiply it by 48.68%, which is the agreed upon reimbursement rate for Northborough, that could total just over 2.6 million. When we carry that forward, we've included in the package some contingency, just in case, but those figures at present are not eligible for reimbursement. But they really want you to do that to make sure that when you go to the town and make the full request, you're not needing to go back to the town and ask because of things that could occur between now and the time when we're actually taking care of the project. So the estimated total amount requested to the town will be $5,683,150, which would be part of the town meeting vote in April. And because the way MSBA requires you to do it is you make the request for the full amount, because then what they grant back to you is dependent on how the construction goes and what ultimately becomes eligible. So that's a factor that they don't promise in the beginning. That's why it's all estimated. And then based on that estimate, it would burrow down to an estimated bonded amount after MSBA reimbursement of just over $3 million. So the burden to the town would ultimately be that bottom figure of $3 million after we go through that entire process. And this is the estimate that they've put forward for us. In the memo, it'll show kind of like the different options that were considered, and the recovery is really what this is, which is the removal of the top layers of the roof, which is a stone ballasted roof, and putting down a flat EPDM roof, and then taking care of the shingles and everything underneath it that would support it. So that's the style of roof that's being recommended based on their review of everything. Kelly?
So when we get approval at town meeting for 5.6.
Yep.
And change, when is the bond, that means like we take a loan out basically, right?
Yes.
So when does that take place versus when you get the reimbursement? Like, do you know your reimbursement
Yes.
before you take it out? Like, what's the timeline of how that?
Correct. So the final reimbursed amount is not determined until the project is 90+% complete.
Yeah.
And then
I
that
would
figure,
think you'd have to start paying before that.
you don't have to start paying for it before it's completed, correct?
No, so
No, I
you
don't
would,
think so, no.
so you would, I think, once approved,
Mm-hmm.
then the town would decide how to pay for it.
Right.
Okay.
They could decide to use a revolving account
Okay.
or bond
And
it.
so they
They take
decide
care
on the full
They-
5.6, and then they eventually get
Yeah,
two
so,
back.
so two things need to happen. One is we need to, these are projections. So we actually need to get closer cost estimates. So these might be refined.
Might be?
And then we need to go out to bid,
Yes.
and that's when we'll know the actual costs. And that's the amount that we'll understand what the 48.68% amount is and what the town will need to borrow or fund
And
for this
the out
project.
to bid happens after town meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Which,
Yeah.
again,
Remember the whole painting situation last year,
yeah,
2 years
Oh,
ago?
the
And-
fire station.
Yeah.
yeah, and it changes the costs and,
Right.
But based on what we know, these are, conservative numbers. Because they don't want us to be in a position of having to go back and ask for more money. So that's what this is really cautioning us against, without being extraordinary. So Greg and I have had a round of meetings with the OPM and the architect to really fine tune this, and that's why we pushed them on that to refine it before the January 8th, tomorrow's submission.
The reason why they have you, I think you said this, Keith, bond the entire amount as a town is because there's still some unknowns
Right.
until you go out to, you procure, you get an actual cost.
Correct.
So, and in our current labor market and supply chains, things can change. So,
So they'll be submitting a package, it's called the SD, the Schematic Design Package, to the MSBA tomorrow. That's the deadline in order to be on the February MSBA meetings agenda. So that's the timeline. And it's actually the identical timeline to Trotter, which is helping me. Everyone's kind of on the same schedule. And then it'll be a little bit of a waiting game until we get to the town meetings to see, what we'll support. Fortunately, both our OPM and our designer are willing to participate. They've been willing participants right along and expect to participate in that process so they can bring the expertise to the table.
To town meeting.
They would be available.
Yeah.
They should be there. They should plan on being there. Tell them they should plan on being there.
I
Well,
did.
I want, a note for you, Bryce. Last year, after I talked to the people that make the schedule, not the select board, but like the administrative people, and they were like, oh, we didn't know you had out-of-town presenters. We could have made you, moved you up on the
Good point.
agenda. So for you
Good
to
point.
reach out to them.
So we don't have
And
people
I
showing
do
up to
too.
sit through 4.5 hours to not get anything done?
Yeah, especially if we have out-of-town people.
Yeah.
I mean, our
That's all right.
superintendent, sitting right here is enough, we've got out-of-town people,
Yeah.
so.
I live in Shrewsbury.
Non-voter.
So far,
I'm in agreement with talking to them. I'll figure that out.
So if we wanna,
Yep.
yeah.
I'm sure they would appreciate that.
Yep.
But they've been great partners. I have been impressed. They've listened to us. They've taken our feedback. They've made adjustments, and they worked even over the break to get us to where we are now, and, feeling pretty good about the
As
package.
they should have.
As they should have, correct?
Here's a little
They gotta see
idea for a legislative agenda. OPMs and architects have to submit a minutely detailed expense report.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are otherwise just a pretty unbearable line item in this.
Well, if you think about our cost for the Peasley OPM and architect
Yeah,
is $900 and,
that's what I mean. I want to
$39,000.
see their number.
compared to a roof project where it's,
Yeah, it's
about the
obviously,
same amount.
it's obviously inappropriate.
but I will say that the $3 million cost to the town
Yes.
is closer to what we were predicting it would cost for a
Totally.
roof.
Correct.
It's,
Okay.
I have a couple questions. I think you said that things were not eligible for reimbursement yet, the contingency.
Correct.
And so at some point, when we get the whole thing, they just take the whole price and it's all eligible, or there are pieces of it
No.
still that are not?
There are
pieces
still
of
gonna
it.
be pieces of it that are not eligible.
Okay.
The good part is all the big ticket items, like ADA compliance, code is included, as well as all the fees that Bryce commented on.
Okay.
So that's kind of the good part, whereas you would think maybe those weren't included.
But they're at different percentage rates.
They are.
So the OPM
can-
and architect
right.
is rebated at
Yes.
a different percentage point. No?
No, same. They're included in the 48%
Okay.
Yeah.
total.
Okay.
Once you get to that total, those would be eligible for reimbursement costs.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought I had heard them say there was a cap on certain items within the project,
Mm-hmm.
around 20%, and I may be getting that wrong.
There are some variations, as I'm understanding, so I'm listening to the OPM kind of go
Yeah.
through things. That is true in part that there are caps, but this project falls well with underneath based on what they've shared with me, unless there's a surprise.
Yeah.
So if they peel back the lid and there's something that they find that was not discovered
of
during
course they would.
feasibility, that's the type of stuff it's protecting against as well.
Okay. When you say conservative, I think oh, we're minimizing. What you mean though, right, just to clarify, is like their conservative number is,
Higher.
we're confident we're not gonna go above this.
Correct.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
it's
Right.
true.
Yeah, I mean,
Just wanted to clarify that
I would
with
be
my own blood
cautious,
pressure.
I'd be cautious to make any comments about these numbers,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
whether they're conservative or not.
Yeah.
Like, I just,
You know,
Yeah.
they,
Realistic.
that's what they can, that's, well,
They
what they're
kept saying
messaging.
that.
that's what they're messaging.
That's what they're messaging, yes, and we all
Yeah.
know the
But we all
economy
know
we
that
lived in
all
in
of
the
a
last
sudden
5
then
years.
it's like, you get an extra million. They're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And remember, at the earliest that this could go out would be 8 months from now.
I know, which
A
prices
lo- a lot-
changed,
a lot
a
can
lot
change, right.
changes.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So that's always why there's caution. I think
Is there an
Greg's right
election?
in not saying it in that way, but to be knowing the timeline could also have an impact on where we land.
How many town committees does this have to go through, get approved by? Before, obviously, it needs a warrant article, that needs to be put on the town meeting by the select board. Before it hits select board, does it have to go to like finance or anybody else to get either approval, or are they just commenting, or just wondering what the
so,
process is?
financial advisory
Mhm.
and financial planning, I'm just
Like a-
confused by the names. of
Like
Yes.
the
appropriations, I feel like we.
And then,
we
Yes,
tend
that's
to.
what I'm asking.
and then capital.
Okay. So financial planning, appropriations, capital,
I feel like we
at least
usually-
then the select board's gonna see it and say whether it's
Yeah.
on the
I
agenda
feel like
for
we
town
always
meeting or
present
not.
to all those people. yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. Just, you know, you want a crowd. I
Good
guess,
practice.
let us know. Can you send us this to us? Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to have this too,
Yeah.
please.
Gladly.
All right. Moving on to the Community Preservation Act application for Milliken Ball Fields.
Loved it.
Yes, so, at our last meeting, I did let the committee know that on the following day, we would be presenting an application for the CPC's consideration. We've gotten a tremendous amount of support from them at that initial meeting, as well from other groups around town, which is very much appreciated. We had a number of letters of support for the project. And tomorrow evening, we are invited back to their next CPC meeting to continue the discussion of the project. But it does feel like we are getting significant support, and I'm sure there'll be some questions that we'll have to answer tomorrow evening before any. I don't even know if they'll get to a vote tomorrow. I'm unsure about what their schedule will be, but feeling like we've got a lot of support out there to do a field renovation, which would include both the baseball and the softball fields at Milliken.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. All right, moving on to discussion of the 2026-2027 school calendar options.
Sure, so at the December 2nd combined open meeting, I presented the 4 committees with 4 draft calendars for consideration. So you have those calendars in your packet. I know you had some initial conversations at the combined open meeting. The Southborough Pre-K through 8 School Committee voted to approve calendar 3, option 3, as well as the regional school district. So, as you know, and I think there was some more discussion that the Northborough School Committee wanted to have before making a decision. So, turn it back to you.
Okay, well then we'll open the floor for some discussion here.
See, I was liking number 2. Why didn't people vote for number 2, or did they just go right to the vote number 3?
It's hard to, I gotta be honest, it was really hard to understand what prompted people to move in that direction so quickly. It felt like it happened, it got called to vote, essentially.
Oh, so,
I think the idea there was that option 3, and again, this is not my words, I think option 3 in people's minds met a compromise. And I'm gonna refrain from trying to understand what that compromise is, but somebody else may have an opinion on it.
and, so,
Can I mention 2 and 4? Is that your questions about 2?
yeah, and then the other thing is 2 and the start date, it's this one, I'm going back and forth between two different documents. So, the start date of 3
Is 9/2,
is 9/2, and that's the Wednesday before
the holiday?
the holiday.
Yep.
And so is option 2, is that too early
Yeah, so
per teacher contracts, or is that not?
that was my understanding in the
I
discussion.
couldn't answer that.
So I guess.
Yeah, so-
somebody-
Is that,
I mean, there's, in terms of the Northborough pre-K through 8 teacher contract,
yeah, I know us, but I know we also.
there's not
like,
a,
Yeah, so I know there's no contract obligation for ours, but I know we also like to have
The same calendar.
one calendar versus like
so
3
the-
different operating calendars. So would number 2 even just, it wouldn't even be possible because of the,
Yeah, so the option 4,
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure you have something you'd like to present to us, right?
so, so just so you know, the option 4 was created by the Regional Teachers Association. What I asked them was, when is the earliest we could start? What they did was they went and then created a calendar. So as you can see, we start on the 27th, 28th, and then in
First day is the first of
first day is the
September.
first, and then we have Labor Day off, or the Friday before Labor Day off. So I didn't ask them to create a calendar, I asked them if we could start, when's the earliest we could start. They're not, so they have communicated to me and the Regional School Committee, they're not happy with calendar 3.
And are they saying 4 days in a row to start off the year is just a bit too much?
I think, isn't it 5 days in calendar 2? Is that
No,
what you're
it's-
talking about?
Okay,
We're
so-
on calendar 4.
No, we're on calendar
so
4.
they approved it at the meeting, but it doesn't, like, it can be revoted in March,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
We
yeah.
can always revote.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay, so the
that's if
feedback,
there's a will of,
so the
the regional
feedback
school.
Right.
from,
Has to be.
the feedback from just the high school or from all teachers was unhappy with calendar 3?
the feedback that I received was from ARDA.
The
Was
region.
just from them?
Yeah.
Have we asked the other one?
I think that I have had conversations with the Teachers Association in
And nobody else
Northborough
seems
and
to-
Southborough. I mean, I think they'd prefer not to have Professional Development Day on a religious observance day.
Okay.
But they did not voice, like, we're in opposition of this calendar.
Okay.
So, it's interesting to me that the one that they submit had more,
I mean, there's plenty of iterations of the school calendar that we can come up with. I mean,
Yeah.
I could go back and say, I mean, the one thing I think is, one aspect that I don't recommend is that we have students start the 3rd week, or the 4th week in August, that 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, or 28th. I think families have already made plans.
Yeah, and I'm away till the 29th, so let's
Yes.
not do that.
So,
Just booked a rental.
I know, well, I'm thinking of going away too in August, but I'm like, I'm seeing that for the high school, they have like tryouts and stuff like that, like the week prior, and I was
Oh.
like, oh God. I was like,
Mhm.
another whole thing I have to be
But
like.
we could, I mean, I could go back, I mean, again, I'm not sure where the Regional School Committee and Southborough Committee are, they voted, like,
Okay, so,
but I could go back to, we could change option 4 and say that teachers start on the 27th, 28th, and the 31st, and kids go to school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday through Friday.
Well, this is something that's important to note too, because I didn't realize in our discussion, last time that was created by the region. I thought that 2 and 4, or 2 of them were off the table because the region wasn't starting before.
Well, 4 is new to us.
So,
Four-
is it?
No, 4 was.
No,
Four was
so,
there last time.
so
4
they,
was on,
so they,
4 was on it last time, yeah, because they
So
have that
4
Friday off, and I was
Oh, yeah,
confused.
right,
so in-
right.
since our last meeting,
Mm-hmm.
the region asked, they said they don't like calendar 3.
And when you say the region, you mean
They
our,
are.
yeah, okay.
And they don't like calendar 3 because,
Because on Yom Kippur and Eid,
Their PD days versus, but what do
Yeah.
they have it as?
For 4, I assume it's off.
They have
They
Eid.
just have them off.
No, Eid is a PD day, but Yom Kippur is no school. So there's one.
so I went
PD.
back, I went
Yeah.
back and proposed a calendar that we started on Monday, the 24th. But they didn't like that calendar either, so their association didn't like that calendar. So
So part of what got me in the combined meeting
Mhm.
before, when we were having a discussion, is I agree with Arta. Like, I do not like, I think we're creating this new gray area where we don't really need to when we start doing professional development days on religious holidays that we said, we're gonna take these off. We added them into the calendar, voted on that last year. So we sort of have these forces of late Labor Day, right, the Algonquin Teachers Union has a certain start date, which is fine, and then we have a June 30th, that's our other end date. And then we have these days that we said we were gonna make religious observances and take them off. And I think, before having this discussion, and again, open discussion, I didn't like calendar 3 because, again, we're creating this, oh no, we're gonna modify what we said we're gonna do in gray area. And a lot of people at the last meeting talked about how, well, we should get like 3 years of data and then look at what we wanna change. But we're already changing things after one
Well,
year. So that was part of my thinking, is I was actually, before sitting down here today anyway, my leniency was towards 1, I think, if I didn't mix them up, because I think it's 1 that has all of those holidays as religious days, right? But I wouldn't, but I also thought that we couldn't start before the 31st. So if that was misconstrued on my part, then
I mean-
if draft 4 allows us to have professional development days before the 1st, start on the 1st,
Yeah, I mean, I would
and have
say,
everything, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, I agree with you. I would say if they're willing to start earlier, then do the calendar 1, but have the start date be the 27th, 28th, and then, you know what I mean? Like, have those days be the week earlier. If they're willing to do that, according to their calendar, they are willing to start earlier.
Right, so we could do calendar 1.
So
bump the
kind
first-
of combine the 1 and.
But it would be
the-
calendar 4, and it'd be PDs 27th, 28th, 31st, and I would.
Well, the 10th too then has to be changed.
Then I would say students start on the 1st, and we go Tuesday through Friday. Friday's not a day off.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no.
Yep,
And then that
And
would
then
be
take
the-
that 4th, that Friday, and move that Friday to the 10th.
So then Yom Kippur would be no school for everyone, not a PD day. And then if you notice in March on this draft, 3/10 is professional development day.
Yeah, so change that to the day off.
So that is.
what do you mean change that to the day off?
Because they wanted the 4th. They
Why,
wanted-
but why would you then bring it somewhere else in the calendar?
Because that's the holiday that we voted on last year. We said to have those holidays off.
But,
And the feedback was icky to put a PD day on a holiday.
so 3/10 is Eid.
Yeah, now I see.
So then if you move it, then they still have the
The
number
days.
of days off that they were requesting.
And you'd still end on the 17th.
On the 17th.
But
Right.
we end on this, so it would be
Right.
still the same thing. And then that PD day can be, if they need another PD day, that can be moved to a different month.
I guess my question is, we're having this discussion again, largely because there was community input from a petition about removing holidays. So I think that we, as a committee, have been trying to balance the hopes and desires of a lot of different viewpoints. And so I think that still option 4, the last day of school, is still relatively early, which is good. But it doesn't take away that piece of some of the feedback we've received about hardship for families who don't have those days off and who have to take PTO. So that's why we're having this conversation
No,
again
and-
this year.
And I,
So,
and I
yeah.
agree with all of that, but also, the problem is that all of that feedback came after it was kind of established at a prior meeting that we wanted to have all of those holidays in and added to it.
Like
And so-
consistency, you mean?
Yeah, and it was discussed at that meeting. And, I mean, if you go back and watch the tape, I wasn't one who voted for it, but I'm advocating for it because the committee, that was the united front, was, we're adding all these holidays. So if that was the stance that we took, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like, as you were saying, like, we need to have some sort of time period to evaluate it. And I don't know, did I imagine that, was NEDP open on some of those days this year? Some of the days off? I feel like I
The
heard,
rec department also had programs.
Both
yeah, I
programs.
feel like I heard that. And again, not ideal for everyone, not things, I understand that.
Well, mixed
But again-
results of attendance of that, too.
But again, all of the people, the committee last year was the same committee for the most part, I think. The ones who voted in, what was it, June, March? When did we vote? June,
March
March.
last year, right? Yeah.
right? So that was the same roughly committee as the December committee.
Also,
So can I ask a question?
So I just, yeah,
Are you asking me
no,
to?
Yeah, I'm confused
Are
as
you
well.
asking
Yes.
me
to create a different one.
because we have time, we don't, like, things don't, like, I agree, I think rushing to approve a calendar December,
Yeah,
I think in the way we did it, it
yeah.
didn't provide for full discussion and full understanding of what we were looking at. But I could take calendar 4, I could have conversations with the chairs of Southborough Committee, the Regional Committee, ARDA, Association Presidents, Northborough Presidents, and Southborough Presidents, to see if the calendar we just described, starting on, you know, the 27th, 28th, and 31st being PE days, students
Turn on the 1st.
Tuesday the 1st and go through Friday the 4th. And then that would mean we would add another day in March for PD, or another time for PD, and we'd still end up getting out on the same day, the 17th.
And no significant election day for this upcoming November, so no reason to draw any conclusions there.
And they've moved elections.
Elections
Right,
aren't in
yeah,
schools
right.
anymore.
So the other part, I think that's wise. I think if you go to make the calendar with the inclusion of all of the religious observances as days where the schools are closed,
Mhm.
starting with students showing up on 9/1 and aiming for a finish date the week of 6/15, 6/14,
Yeah.
then I do think it's a good point that in order for us to evaluate anything, it is important that it be approximate to itself repeatedly. So I think it's a good point that if we are changing things, it will be harder to evaluate a consistent outcome. I would think if you were to take option 4, reincorporate the days of observance as days off and resubmit, I'm guessing you'll get folks who will.
And again,
It won't satisfy the compromise that was asked for.
it's not
but
gonna,
it's
it's
not-
not gonna appease the people who don't want any holidays in it. But, you know what I mean, like.
But it's not just that group.
But that's a large group
Yeah.
that doesn't want the holidays in it. They want more consistent weeks, they don't
Mhm.
want the added days in. So it's not gonna appease them, but.
But it'll
But-
give us
But the
more to
vote
evaluate.
from originally wasn't going that way anyways, like it wasn't going.
Correct, correct.
And again, and I didn't vote for adding the holidays in because I felt, I was in the mindset, like, it is breaking up weeks, it is doing, like, we have observance policies for people to use those things, but that's not what it was, you know what I mean? So if that's how we voted as the committee, was to add in the holidays for a few years to see how it goes and who we touch. What we immediately found is that we missed holidays, which was the other thing that I was worried about.
Yeah, well, this one does too.
Well,
Right.
that's what I'm saying, we're not adding any more.
But it's not a
Well, we-
change, I guess, to the idea of
not a
just
change to what
keeping
was
rolling
voted,
with
like,
what we can
yeah.
evaluate. That is also not a change. So those people will also not be pleased.
Yeah,
I would share that having PD days on those, on Eid and Yom Kippur didn't solve the feedback we heard from parents, which is, we have to find, either take a day
Yeah,
off
it's
of work
not-
or
yeah.
childcare. So I don't see a modification of calendar 4 any different
Right.
No.
to
With students.
modification of calendar 3.
no.
Mhm.
Other than more support from our teachers
Yeah,
who work with our kids.
Yeah.
I would say the difference to me and why I wasn't comfortable with calendar 3 is that consistency and sticking with what we said we were gonna do. And you're right, childcare wise, I don't wanna minimize the challenges for families. I have 4 kids. I've
Yes.
spent the last 14 years finding childcare. My older 2, I can kind of just keep track of at this point, but my younger 2, I have to find childcare for all those days off. But it's the same 180 days too. So I'm finding childcare on March 10th, or I'm finding childcare on June 19th, or June 20th, or whatever, they would have been in school. So I still had to find childcare. And a lot of parents don't have all the federal holidays off, right? They have to find childcare on those days when we have them off. So it would be impossible for us to try and figure out a calendar that is going to help everyone in that scenario. And so what I was coming at, it was kind of what Kelly was saying, was we decided last year as a body, as 3 committees together, that it was important to add these holidays in. We did know that one of the cons was that we weren't gonna get all of them. There were gonna be some we missed. And that was based on 3 years of hard work by the calendar subgroup. That was lots of discussions and lots of research. And so I'd really like to see it, play out for at least a few years where we can evaluate consistent calendars and then say, what is the impact, right? Do we need to add another holiday that we're hearing about and is a significant part of our community, or do we need to back up because it's causing more issues than we're solving? Personally, for me, and I know I've had this discussion with some people, but the change for me was I want everybody to be able to enjoy their holiday without worrying about what they're missing, student and faculty alike, just like I enjoy Christmas, right? Or Easter's always on a Sunday, so it's a non-starter, but on Christmas, I'm not worried about what I'm missing at work. My kids aren't worried about what they're missing at school, because even though we had a religious policy, which should be there as a catch-all, the students are still missing that day, and then they've got 2 days to make up that work, plus the next work, plus everything else, and so they can't really be present with their families. And that was the thing that floated to the top for me, where I felt like it's important to include these other holidays as days off. And again, it's the same 180 days, and then my kids are just in school later. But I just want to share where I was coming from and thinking of on that one.
I don't know if anybody heard of any other holidays we missed. The only one I heard was Greek
Orthodox
Good
Good
Friday.
Friday.
I don't know when that is. If that
In 26,
PD day
it's,
could be placed on that day, I would be extra supportive.
Yeah. Was it their Good
I think
Friday
it's
or their
2 weeks
Christmas?
after,
I think it's usually,
so it would be April 9th.
so it'd be
or
April
16th,
9th,
I think.
Okay.
the 6th.
Greek Orthodox?
Greek
Easter-
Orthodox,
yeah,
Good
Easter,
Friday, Good
Christmas.
Friday.
It's
not
their
Easter.
Good Friday, because we've got the
2
Christian
weeks
Good
behind.
Friday, and I think Greek Orthodox either the following one or the one, I don't.
I think it changes.
It changes, like the way Easter changes too. But I know, as I said, like, because if we're changing,
April 10th of 2026 is Orthodox Good Friday.
Oh, so
well,
a
no, it's got to
Saturday.
be, no, you look at the 27th. We're already in 26 now. You have to look at the
Oh, yeah.
27th.
Let me just retype that.
Yeah, so it's probably the 9th, maybe? It would be.
30th.
Oh, so
Oh, it's the 30th.
30th of 2027.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one that does follow a lunar calendar, not a strict calendar.
So that's
Roman
like
calendar.
April 30th.
So I
So-
think that's,
So if that March 10th could move to April 30th,
The professional development day, I mean.
that
Yeah.
professional development day, and then the,
Do we feel like Professional Development Day with 6 weeks left of school is?
I don't know.
All my professional development days are in May after my classes
Yeah,
are done. It's like a week of
yeah,
assessment
yeah.
and work, so,
so we just look
yeah, I
forward.
do like it.
You know, our PD focuses on what
The
we're
upcoming
planning
Yeah.
for the next year.
So in April, it would be okay, because you'd be planning for fall, you think, okay, yeah, that's what, usually ours is, maybe we should switch ours. Ours is usually looking backwards, like assessment of what we're doing.
Oh,
but-
yeah.
I think that's another important, like, if we mapped out the calendar for the next 5 years in
Mhm.
terms of, there's a lot, you know, there's a lot of movement and shifts when Eid and, you know, religious observances that follow you know, the
Different
lunar
calendar.
calendar. It's rare. I don't think the calendars that we projected out, you have all of them falling during either, you know, a school work week.
Right.
There's some that fall on
Mhm.
vacations. It's variable.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
No, I mean, my only other comment would be for the March presentation of the calendars and discussion for the calendars would be to then just basically present 2 calendars.
Well,
One, the one that was voted, and then,
the chairs of the committees are going to have to do the evaluation of the calendars, and not us, but the Southborough and Algonquin are gonna have to go back in agreement to do a vote to repeal
yeah.
the calendar 3, so,
But I'm saying, I feel like 4 is, unless you want to have a separate calendar meeting with all the people, I feel like
I think
there's too
I
much.
need to have conversations with the chairs.
Yeah.
There might not be an appetite.
there might not be an appetite.
So I think I can get a sense.
But then how does that leave us if
Leaves,
we're,
it leaves us looking for a vote
we have
on
to,
calendar
We
3,
have to decide.
a yes or no vote.
Yeah,
And then I need to, then I
although technically,
I
did we already
don't-
vote? No?
We,
call
well,
it through
but
'cause
we
we
would
only
have
have
to vote, we would have to vote again.
Oh, you're right. It
Two,
was
so,
2-2.
yeah.
Yep, you're right.
and it could happen at 3 separate committee meetings. We don't necessarily need to convene in
Yeah.
a combined meeting
Right.
to accomplish this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, just the feedback that I received tonight from everything, learning that they don't love this, and that I would have a hard time voting for a calendar if the faculty don't love it. But, I mean, I don't know.
And just,
It's just
go ahead.
changing the
So the real
dynamic of
issue.
adding it, like, with these, and I don't know. The
so
whole
real-
thing is just,
The issue
I
is.
thought we were done with this last year.
So the issue is, it got into a collective bargaining agreement
Yeah,
where it shouldn't have.
Yeah.
around-
Language around start
Oh,
dates,
the
yes,
start
yes,
years
yes.
ago,
Oh,
years
yes.
ago it got into it, you're
So-
saying, yeah,
So that's what complicates this.
yes.
But
Yep. Well, among other things, I think part of me is like, it is what it is. This is when we start, and this is where we end, and that's what you end up with.
Yeah,
Like, you know, and I understand you guys were trying to make sort of everybody or as many people as you can happy by finding different iterations, and I think I said in the last meeting, I appreciate your outside the box thinking and like trying to be creative, but, yeah, that's in the bargaining agreement, so it is what it is. That's where we go with.
Okay, for the sake of keeping things moving, if there are no further comments, I'll move on. Okay, moving into superintendent's report to the committee, starting with enrollments.
Sure. So in your packet is the enrollment as of 12/15/2025. So no significant variations in terms of enrollment from the last report you reviewed. And we have moved the number of sections forward in terms of what it looks like for 25-26. Also in your packet is the financial report from the Finance Department. So the general fund report dated December 31st, 2025 represents the expenditures and encumbrances made during the first half of the fiscal year 2026. It is hard to believe that it is we're at that milestone. The district has expended $11,875,476 and has encumbered $17,621,833 since the start of the fiscal year. The budget balance is $492,632, or a 1.64% of the total operational budget, which is an increase of $15,679 from the previous month. As you know, we have put a freeze on the budget to try to see if we can offset any of the significant challenges that we're facing in the FY27 budget. The December monthly general fund report also has 3 new function codes that are over budget. The accounts, budget, balance, account from which the funds are being taken and supported are substitutes short-term. The budget balance is negative $19,167, and that is we've projected out substitute costs for the remainder of the year. We do see volatility in this because it also includes when there are medical leaves, different type of family leaves. Custodial salaries, deficit of $4,874. That's primarily due to substitute and overtime expenses. Maintenance of buildings, $3,562, and that's maintenance expenses at Melican Middle School. Some of that has to do with additional cleaning services as a result of some of the classroom conditions that we experienced. So I request, or Becky requests, the Northborough School Committee vote to accept the FY26 monthly general fund report as of December 31st, 2025 until audited, and vote to approve the function codes listed above that have been overexpended in fiscal year 2026.
I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kelly, second by Kristen. All those in, so this is going to be a roll call vote?
Can I ask a question first?
Of course.
Discussion.
Of course.
So,
For discussion.
where is the money from teacher salaries coming for substitutes? Was that overestimated, and so there's extra funds there?
It's coming from teacher salary line item, so that account, our hires came in lower
I see.
than we had anticipated.
Okay.
So that's where we're moving the
Okay.
funds from.
Thank you.
Yeah, same with the custodial salaries are going to come out of supplies and
Yep.
instead of just salaries. Okay, so I've got a motion, I've got a second, roll call vote. Joan,
Yes,
Kelly,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Bryce is a yes, unanimous, thank you.
All right, next is the Special Education Stabilization Fund information. So I'm gonna just share my screen. Try again. All right, so, one of the challenges that we faced in prior years, and we're facing it in fiscal year 27, is just the volatility of expenses that we're seeing in special education. It does not have to do anything with special education. It's really about the funding mechanisms that exist that just aren't supporting the increased costs that we're seeing. We are seeing students who require more different types of individualized programming. There are students who require out-of-district programs due to their needs. We're seeing increased costs in special education transportation, and the funding mechanism, circuit breaker reimbursement, isn't keeping up with the increased demands of costs. So one of the recommendations that we're making to the school committee is to create a special education stabilization fund. There are very few stabilization funds that pre-K through 8 committees can create, and this is one. Which is allowed under Mass General Law. And really the goal is to create a special education stabilization fund to pay for unexpected or unbudgeted special education costs. And it is section 24 of chapter 218 of the Acts of 2016. So a little bit of information about special education the stabilization fund. So the reserve fund can be used in future years for unexpected or unbudgeted special education costs. The law requires a majority vote of both the school committee and the local legislative body. So we need to bring this before town meeting for a vote. And there would need to be a separate line item in the annual budget to appropriate monies. So when we're creating operational budgets, we would have to actually identify how much we're funding the revolving account. The balance cannot exceed 2% of annual net school spending, so we're estimating that's approximately about $500,000. And funds may only be expended after a majority vote of both the school committee and the select board. So if we are experiencing unexpected special education costs, it would be required a vote of the school committee and a vote of the select board. And the account only can be used to spend down on transportation programs, non-public schools, and payments to collaboratives. So the FY27 school committee recommended budget does not include any funding for stabilization fund. But we are recommending that we create it for future funding of it. We are working with our town auditor and our school auditor to look at mechanisms. If we did have money at the end of fiscal year 26, is there a way, if we created it, we could actually fund it using any savings in FY26 that we realized? So we'll have more information about that in February.
I'm in support of it.
Yeah, if anybody has questions, it is a good idea.
I'm in support of this, if there's any way we can, like, avoid a situation like we're in this year, Because, I mean, if we had one previously and we had it, it might not cover all of what we need this year, but it would definitely help reduce the hole we're digging out of.
Yeah, if you look at the reason why FY27 is a challenging budget year is because we received $800,000 less in circuit breaker than we have in the past. So that's almost 2.5% of the budget that we have to make up somehow.
So to get this, we have to write a warrant
So
article.
it'd be a warrant article.
Warrant article, we would have to
But
approve.
we have to vote on it
vote and approve,
first, to then create a
and
warrant
then
article
create the warrant
for it.
article. Yeah.
And so we would need to vote next month,
Yeah, I think you could vote next month.
February,
Yeah, I think that's right.
right?
Because then they'd have it for
Because then
March.
they have to,
I mean, you could vote tonight. You could,
oh,
I mean,
We
I
don't
would,
need an actual, do we need an actual warrant article to vote, like a?
For
no, that would be
us.
another one.
Then
We would
next-
just we would need to make a motion to create.
can we put it on a vote for February?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can do it
let's-
to work
let's-
it and finesse it, but
let's-
we would just,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
just so people can think about it.
Yeah.
And come
Let's
back
not
with
do
any
that tonight.
questions, but I think that, yeah. You just need a agreement to create one, and
Do
then
you-
that has to
it's-
then be,
Kelly's bringing up a really good point here, which is like, do you need us to vote and approve the strict guidelines or the idea of the fund,
Just
right?
vote to-
Because if it's,
Vote to approve a
then that makes
stabilization
life
fund.
easy. I think we can figure
Yeah.
that out in February.
Okay, we just need to vote.
The
that we do
idea
want
of a
That
stabilization.
you want one.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
Future
All right.
agenda.
FY '27 through FY '32 approved capital plans.
So in your packet, no changes. FY '27 approved budget priorities, which we'll talk about, FY '27 recommended budget. And also we'll talk about the FY '27 budget calendar and the recommended budget presentation.
Okay.
So, so it's hard to believe it is January 7th, and we're presenting the FY '27 recommended budget. A lot of the information that I'll share this evening, you have been presented, in the past several months. So it's not new information. But I think it's important to go through and just talk about, in the process a little bit, and then where we're at. So we are a mission and vision-driven organization, so we're about students. So as you know, our portrait of a graduate, and our mission, educate, inspire, and challenge all students really drives our work. And the budget is a vehicle to try to accomplish the goals that we set in our strategic plan. Our strategic plan, we measure annually, so we are at, it's hard to believe it's 2026.
Ugh.
So this is the last year, and as you know, we're in the process of reauthorizing Vision 2026, so it will be Vision 2032. And that work is taking place over the next several months. But I am pleased to share that we have made strong progress toward the strategic objectives that we set. In terms of the calendar, this has been work that the school committee and the district have been engaged in since September. It's been a tremendous amount of meetings, dialogues, and iterations of budgets, really centered around students and making sure that we're keeping in mind the student experience in the classroom and trying not to impact that if we have to make budget reductions, but also thinking about what can we add incrementally in terms of the student experience. So here we are tonight with the superintendent's recommended budget. Dr. Reinhorn shared this in her presentation of MCAS. We are becoming more culturally and linguistically diverse, which is exciting, and our data shows that. In terms of enrollment trends, I think that if we look ahead to the next 10 years, we're not seeing any big shifts in enrollment. It's going to be pretty steady based on our projections, which is good news for us in terms of predicting what we need in terms of classrooms and teachers and facilities. And again, I think the town of Northborough has a commitment to education. We are very thankful for the investment that the town has made consistently year over year. We're also very thankful to the families and the parents and the guardians who are great partners in this process and makes a huge difference in terms of the quality of education and the students' experience. So in addition to our strategic plan, we have our school committee budget priorities. So these are very important as we're making decisions around what to fund or not to fund. These priorities really are paramount in terms of our decision-making process. And you all are familiar with the priorities that we've set, so we'll not review these closely. And then in terms of where we are with a recommended budget. So the recommended budget this evening is $32,313,256, which is a 7.75% increase over fiscal year 26. It is a reduction of services and a reduction of 8.4 FTEs. We are not prepared yet to talk specifically about what those reduction to services are because we still have more work to do. I will share that the 8.4 FTEs, we've tried to reduce the FTEs through attrition and retirements. We have approximately 7 retirements that are happening in fiscal 26. And we're making sure we're trying to be strategic around not impacting future employees, but looking at those retirements and trying to navigate some of the reductions. I also will share that we can have a reduction of staff without a reduction of service. That the service level still can be the same with fewer people. And that's something we're looking at closely as we move forward. Our goal has been to maintain class sizes, student experiences, and then high quality staffing. We've talked about the budget drivers, so special education transportation, special education out of district tuition, special education collaborative tuition, and salaries. And again, when we talk about special education budget drivers, special education is really a key aspect of our work and the service we provide. However, the cost of transportation and out of district placements has really challenged our budgets this year and prior years. Just in terms of level setting, a 1% increase of the FY26 budget is a little under $300,000. And then this shows where we started in October with a budget of $34,106,357. It shows the preliminary budget, updated preliminary budget, the revised preliminary budget, and this evening we are showing the superintendent recommended budget, which is at a 7.75% increase. So, and again, we've mapped out every step that we've made to get to this point. I think the offsets of circuit breaker, $747,190. Again, that's about $800,000 less than we typically see. We've made, from the preliminary budget, some budget reductions of $276,487, and then additional reductions of $769,424, which totals a little over $1.7 million. So just in terms of some of the challenges we're facing, of the $2,323,314 increase, which is the 7.75%, these three line items, special education transportation, out of district tuition, and collaborative tuition, represent 56.35% of that increase. And again, the budget that we're recommending is $32,313,256, which is a 7.75% increase. The 8.4 FTEs that we're proposing to reduce, we still have work to do to identify what the programmatic impacts will be. We'll be able to communicate that to you in February. But again, we're trying to be smart in terms of looking at our retirees, our upcoming retirements, and not filling some positions. But again, there will be some reduction in programming that we'll communicate in February. So if we were asked to come to a 3% budget increase over fiscal year 23, we would have to reduce a number, an additional 13.2 full-time equivalent positions, which would significantly impact class size and programs. We'd also recommend using FY27 circuit breaker in FY27 of $300,000. This could put us at risk when we're looking at the FY28 budget. And those two combined would be a little over $1.4 million. I will share that the 7.75% budget increase maintains the class size according to the school committee policy. This is just and again, one of the rationale for creating a special education stabilization fund is we see volatility in circuit breaker and the amount we receive. And you can see in FY '26, there was a difference of $880,000 less than we received in the prior year, making this budget very challenging. And again, I think we've been fiscally responsible and educationally sound in our budget increases. Over a 9-year period, the average increase the school department has requested is 3.14%. I think we've always done our part in terms of bringing in fiscally responsible budgets. However, this year, I think we are trying to maintain the programs that students experience, and that is really challenging in this environment. I wish I had better news, but I think my concern is that if we start reducing programs that student experience, we erode the programs and educational experiences kids expect and families expect over time. I think one of the values that a town brings to a community is, or to the people who live in the community, is education. And once you start down the path of reducing, teachers and programs, I think it's very hard to recover from. So my recommendation to the committee is to try to maintain high level of services and programs that kids experience in that 26.
En route for the budget that gets released on January 23rd.
Yes.
To have better news about 27, 28 moving forward. Okay, any comments, questions from the committee?
I have a process question.
Sure.
So if there's any feedback from the town, bodies who have to approve our proposed budget, can we still proceed with our budget at town meeting, even if we don't get approval from town?
Yeah, so the school committee determines
Okay.
the school budget.
Okay, and then all the different committees
May
either
or
say
may
whether
not support.
they support or
Correct.
do not support? Okay,
Correct.
okay,
But we would still bring and say, this is what we're asking for to the
Right.
town.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
And they would say, does that approve, and they
Right.
could say whatever they want to say,
right,
but we could still stand up there and say, like, regardless of all of that,
Mhm.
this is what we're here asking for.
okay.
Yeah.
So we are working closely with Stephanie Bacon and Jason Little. So we've kept in close contact with the two of them in terms of where we're at. On Monday night, we will be presenting kind of the fiscal climate of Northborough pre-K through 8 in the region to the select board. So they are updated in terms of where we are at this point in time, and give them information that we have.
Okay.
That was actually my question, was whether you knew you were going to be on the agenda, because I don't think the agenda is out yet for Mondays.
Yes, so they are putting me on the agenda. They
Okay,
said it
do
might
you-
be a long night.
Yeah, we
Do
guaranteed.
you know what time?
Yeah, do you know what number you are?
So
or
I
what
have
time?
strategic.
Take a
we have-
ticket.
We have strategic planning from 6:30 to 8
Okay,
at Algonquin, so I asked to be
Ew.
placed on the agenda for 8:30 or after.
oh, wow. It might be number 2.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Hopefully they'll bump you up when you get
Any
there.
school committee member reports? Joan?
I don't have any school committee reports, but since Greg mentioned just now the strategic planning, I just had a question. Yesterday, Greg, you sent out in your superintendent's informational update about the 3 sessions that you're holding in January for the public. January the 12th, 6:30 to 8:30 in the ARHS library. January 20th, 4 to 5:30 at the Trotter Library. And my question concerns the January 28th, the 6:30 to 8, a virtual session. When would we be receiving
So
to attend the first?
So I'll add that link to the Ennisboro News next week, so on Tuesday of next week.
Okay. Next Tuesday will be in there, the link?
Yes, and I can also send it to all the school committee members.
Okay. Thank you. I'll be looking forward to seeing that. Thank you.
Greg, can you repeat those sessions you were listening on?
So it's January 12th,
Monday?
6:30 to 8 this Monday at Algonquin.
Okay.
January 20th, 6:30 to 8 here at Lincoln. And then January 28th, which will be a virtual session, 6:30 to 8, and I'll send out the link.
If we.
Just a correction, Gary, I think the 20th at Trotter,
Trotter.
not Lincoln.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Kristen, did you get that?
Yep, right in that, and that's for, sorry,
Strategic plan.
yeah, feedback, like open forum.
Yes,
that
we're
format
going
for
to have
strategic plan.
an
Losing brain
exercise,
cells.
feedback and input.
Okay, on like the 5-year plan type of overall.
Is that kind of what you're gonna be doing with the,
PTOs, yes, exact same thing.
that's not one of the dates you said, right?
So the
'Cause that one
PTO,
you told, well, at least I have 26, Monday the 26th.
that
down
is
there,
5
right?
o'clock here.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, these
Okay.
are just, I think, open to the public, like open forum.
Okay, okay, that's what I was
The
looking at.
PTO session is the 26th at 5 o'clock
Okay.
here at Lincoln.
Okay.
One thing,
Are we moving into reports? Sorry, I just want
Oh,
to make
are
sure
we in
anybody
reports?
has any further questions.
On the budget.
Yep.
So this, the budget that you presented includes the special education costs, right, that you're gonna discuss and update them on Monday. You know, I can't figure out how to phrase my question without getting into more details, and I don't, you know, like, I know you haven't fleshed out what is the exact change is gonna be, and I totally understand why. It's hard to see those kind of cuts and then also think there's not gonna be an impact, right, which
On students,
I plan
yeah.
on being there
It's
Monday,
weird to
and I
say
will
level
stay on.
services and that sentence in the same, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
or
I-
that in the same sentence, yeah.
I do work in a school where, for many years, for budget reasons, they have not replaced people. And now we're at a point there, at least, where even the best employees are burnt out, playing
Yeah.
3 roles, angry, and looking for other places, you know. Not that I think we are anywhere near there at all, but I just, does make me nervous that we're either being forced or moving towards that way. Not that it, you know, understanding that nobody at this table wanted that to look like that, and you all have done an amazing job and tons of work digging in and trying to find ways. I guess I would just say that when things become available, if you know this is where we're gonna make a change and this is where we're gonna make a change, that would be great for us to know, to sort of understand where those kind of cuts can happen and still be able to keep the class cap, be able to keep, you know, because I always, like Mr. Carey, for example, is retiring, right? But if we're not replacing a teacher, then how are you going to rearrange things? And you're the one looking at the numbers, so maybe you can, okay, this grade changes to that, and here's how we're going to rearrange it. So there, I'm not saying there's not ways.
No, it's, you know, we definitely, I think we have a lot of detail work and modeling to say internally with our team to say what impact this will have on class size. But, you know, also the people who are retiring after decades of service, which means they're
Right.
making, you know,
Right.
on-
The
And then they
lines and the
break it-
things, yeah.
Yeah, and entry level is
and then
different.
looking at
Right.
a new educator joining us, differential.
Mhm. Right, it is always, that's why I am limited to an assistant professor hire.
Yes.
If someone retired, I do understand completely, yep. But-
Yeah, I understand that. I just feel like I have a hard time supporting, even though it's a recommended budget of 7 whatever, seeing that,
The cuts.
yeah. And I understand that it's 8.4, but it might not be body for body, it might, you know what I mean? But I don't see how that's not gonna impact service and impact the students. I don't,
So I think we
so
look
I
at.
need to see it
yeah.
like really before I could like
But it's a
fully
bit of a
support it.
balance because there's only so much information that is
Mhm.
reasonably able to be provided,
Yep.
that is targeted and reactionable, given the timing of, first of all, when we have to take this to the town meeting and the remainder of the school year. So I guess I'm putting forward maybe a bit of a soft expectation on the level of detail that
No,
Greg will be able to
100%.
transparently provide for us.
Yep.
I don't
Least-
know if I'm
yeah.
doing you any favors here,
No, I mean,
but.
I think in February, we'll be at a point where we can articulate, this is the impact,
Yeah, all right.
which programs.
Yeah.
I mean, the 8.4 are, some of those are people.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So we also need to have conversations, and there's just a lot more work we need to do to get to a point where we can be specific,
Mhm.
so we're not surprising anyone.
Right, of course.
yeah.
And Monday, are there any requests going before the select board, or is it just an update? This is like the presentation you gave us?
This is where we're at.
Okay.
Is there a way that we can, I know we've talked about different things, like take the out-of-district placements, like somehow
So-
find different funding? Like,
So-
so that doesn't impact our overall budget somehow, or
So the
or is
way,
there other ways to fund
so
that?
the way
that-
we've, I think we've had conversations around,
Yeah.
the question, could the town use, its revolving fund? And I think the way we're approaching it is that here's our budget, like this is, it's this X% increase. I think once the town comes up with all of their other departments, and then they have a bottom line of, okay, this is how much we need, or we need to go for an override, then the town's gonna need to make a decision of, do we use, revolving fund account, or money
To pay down
pay the
any of
shortfall.
those.
But,
yeah.
but I think that the thing that I'm having a hard time with is, yes, they'll figure out how to do it, but the number is 7-8, and if it's not, that's with 8. Do you know what I mean? Like the 7% with the 8 FTEs.
But I
So
think-
even if they are gonna say, oh, that's their thing, they're gonna pay it, that doesn't help us get back those 8.
No, but if they see the outcome of the recommended budget and they have available levers still to pull, then they can use, well, you're making a face, but that's the idea.
So you're telling me that they would give us 10%
Well, you
versus
could-
7%?
No, but what I'm saying is if you present that like, this is our recommended budget, the additional asks here to get out of this reduction of FTEs would be an offset expense from the town to cover special education costs. So go ahead, jump in at any time.
No, I was gonna say, this is the superintendent's recommended budget. You as a committee could say, we're not okay with this.
Oh, totally, well, there's a large part of us that
Yeah.
isn't, right? Like, and I think that's the point,
Like,
but,
in February, come back with a budget without any.
Well, that's what I
matters.
want.
Totally.
That's what I want then.
I know, but
wanna
I
see
think,
like a
I think
I just honestly, because I just think, and I hear what you're saying. You're saying, I hear what you're both saying. You're saying, we're saying that, and if they're willing to, they're not gonna. Like,
well, but we don't know that.
have you been to a town meeting?
No, I
Have
know,
you
but
been to a select board? Like,
but we're speculating,
I'm speculating on my historical information that I
I understand,
observed.
I understand.
So I have a hard time feeling that way. So for me, I would like to see if we pulled out those numbers, have this be your recommended budget. If we saw a budget that had those things pulled out of it, what would we have?
What do you mean by pulled out of it?
Like,
Put the
present
8.4
it
back
as
in?
a separate warrant article or something, I don't know. Like, so it wouldn't be impacting on our budget.
Well,
Like,
we
if
could-
we
we could
wrote
do
a
that.
warrant article, and I don't even know if this is possible, but if we wrote a warrant article for these expenses, so we're asking them to pay these expenses through a different funding source versus just having them choose which funding source they want to put into our budget. Because if they do that, that's not affecting our 8. if we pull out those numbers and those expenses and say, this is our recommended budget for this, we need extra funding for this column, then we would be made whole. But otherwise, we're not gonna be made whole. If we go to them and ask for 7, that's the most they'll give us, is 7. We're still not getting the 800,000, those 2, 3 extra percents that we need. Unless I'm missing it somewhere, but we're down 3%. You know, so we're gonna take a hit for that 3 extra percent. I would like to see a budget with that 3% taken out.
You're talking about the special education costs?
Or any set of costs that
Or
are
whatever
driving-
the
I think-
3%, so then our budget's 10%.
So
You know?
my concern with that
Yeah.
model where you peel something off of the budget is that you're creating a structural deficit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The next year, that's still going to be a cost.
Yeah.
So I think a better strategy would be to say, okay, we do not want we want a level service budget with no programmatic reductions. Then we would come back and it won't be 7.75%.
Mhm.
It would be
10.
It could be,
Plus.
somewhere between 7.75 and 10.
Yeah. I just don't like seeing, but again, I'm one person of a committee, so.
And then last year, we reduced I believe it's 7.1 or 2 FTEs in the FY '26 budget.
Yeah, but I think that was presented as vacancies that would go unfilled.
It's similar.
Similar. Okay. Okay.
Getting back to Kristen's point, too.
Yep,
Yeah.
of the just reduction, and
Mhm.
replacement, yep. Future agenda item that you'd like us to add for February? Is
Did we do reports yet, or no?
a review of what it would be like to put all the back in?
Oh, like a
I would
discussion
like
about,
to see, I mean, me personally, I would like to see that, but again, I don't, and
I
I
think
know
it-
I know the thing's on Monday.
well, I guess Monday's just a presentation.
Monday's just a
Right,
presentation.
so they're
Monday
gonna put
is-
that before the,
That's
Yeah.
the superintendent's
Right.
recommended budget, it's
Um,
not the school committee.
I think
We
it
haven't
would be
voted.
helpful, whatever details you can give, but also, and it's probably just reassessing, I think data you've already shown us, is like, here's no loss of, services, programs, keeping it all together. Here's where we're trying to strike this balance on the 8.4 FTEs with, special education. Here's if we can do that, plus if we get help in this way, covering the special education costs so that it's not out of our budget, but we don't have to do more layoffs to offset that. Like, I guess the different, just a short outline of the different versions would be helpful, like full services, because, and I totally understand it's hard. There's only so much detail at this point, right? But yeah, it's tough. You guys know best, or will know best when you're able to dig in, where reductions can be made without affecting programs and quality versus, there's a certain point where, right, quality of education and finances are tense. You only can cut so much, right? Like, I don't need to tell anybody that, but, I think it would be helpful, your suggestion of having the different versions so that we can sort of say, okay, this is
So
our
you have the
preferred version.
7.75%
Mhm.
budget.
That's,
Right,
yeah,
And this-
We've done a lot of detailed work internally.
mhm.
okay,
Where we're at now, we need to just revisit that internal work to make sure
Yeah, and I'm,
it's what we think. I think we can come back with a budget in February, making sure that that is truly level service budget,
yeah,
that there are no programmatic reductions to what students will experience.
student
That
impact.
doesn't mean
Yes.
that there's not going to be
No, there
an
might be.
FTE reduction.
Yes, no,
Yes,
agreed,
exactly.
yes.
I just, yeah, because when I just hear that, I just don't see how it is a service, a level service.
Yep.
I don't understand how that could be. So it's like if it can be showed me that it is, and it's not gonna be impactful for the students, great, you know,
And
but,
sometimes it's looking at how, what are the goals
yeah.
and what are ways we can accomplish those goals with kids.
Mhm.
And it's just a different way of looking at how we use resources. It might look different, but the outcome's the same.
Joan?
Hi, listen, I have a question after listening to everybody and their comment. Greg, could we, and with Bryce, could we have another budget subcommittee meeting, even if it's the whole committee? I mean, there's some good discussion that is happening, and we have a lot of ideas. Could we do another one between now and March? February?
I mean, it would be absolutely, I think it would be, if this committee wanted to have an operational budget subcommittee meeting or a special meeting, I think that'd be great, because we could show another version.
Okay, I hate to give you another night or another day, but I think it's very important. This is a very important discussion, and especially what we're going to be, facing. So I think it would be very helpful. And maybe we'll have more insight right after you do the presentation on Monday at the selectmen's meeting. Thank you.
Okay. More work to do. Anything from the committee members on reports?
I have something. So the Community Coalition is hosting a Story Bridge again this year. And so that's something that it would be great if on social media or through your own just networks, you could sort of spread the word. So applications are due next week on the 12th. And then the event itself will be on February 26th at 6 p.m., so it's a Thursday. So ways to be involved are becoming a storyteller, becoming a sponsor, and just spreading the word so that we have participation, especially from Northborough. So I'll be posting on some local Facebook groups. You can just share my post. But I know that we need more Northborough participation, so that would be great. I also have not been able to attend the Community Coalition meetings. They're 4 o'clock on Thursdays. So that just doesn't work with my schedule this year. So if anyone has 4 o'clock on Thursdays free and is interested in sort of being the Community Coalition member instead, they're really working on Story Bridge. They're working on, I think, new student registration, and they're working on Cultural and Music Fest. So those subgroups have already been meeting all year, but if there's any interest from someone else to participate, let me know, because right now I can't go.
They're in person?
No, virtual.
They're virtual.
I think there was one in-person meeting in September.
Are they like an hour long, or?
Yeah.
I might be taking another course and it runs on Thursdays, so I just need to find out, one, if I'm taking it or not, and then
Okay.
it's monthly, you said?
It's not monthly, it's, I think, every other month.
It's quarterly.
Quarterly? Okay. So there's one more that I can't attend.
You have the
Probably
date?
one more, oh, 2 more, I guess. I can get the
Probably
dates.
March or April.
Yeah, I don't know the dates offhand. And that's all that I have.
Okay.
The Wellness Committee met. They had a youth wellness coach introduce himself and talked about what he does. They talked about backpack weight, so there were parent concerns about the weights of backpacks, particularly at Pelican and at the high school that kids are carrying around. They don't use their lockers at all because there's not enough passing time for them to go to their lockers, get their stuff and go. So the parent feedback focused a lot on reducing the amount that the kids are carrying, for example, using electronic resources or keeping things in rooms more commonly. Some, I think, hurdles to that they discussed were like the large size of the schools, the kids not wanting to stop at their lockers, and just general culture shift now. They're not even used to it. I know at Milliken, they used to not be able to carry backpacks. It's just the last 3 years, because when my oldest came in, they were suddenly allowed to use backpacks again because the students had advocated for it. And now we're sort of hearing the feedback the other way of like, it's so heavy, I can't. So they discussed that, and I think, Greg, you're gonna meet with Mary Ellen, right, to discuss that further and see, what might be adjusted there. They formed some subcommittees. Metro West Adolescent Health Survey is one subcommittee that we talked about doing a presentation possibly to the school committee, as well as having like a cafe type presentation to the public so that we know more about that health survey. A lot of times classes in health, biology, and statistics also engage with the survey data, which I thought was really great, because you're using real data and letting the students sort of experience what scientists do with that as well. Wellness Week is April 6th, the week of April 6th, I believe. And so they have a subcommittee to help design that, a subcommittee on digital wellness, which includes like phones and screen time, et cetera, on increasing physical activity. And so then those are the subcommittees. They'll meet before their next meeting in February, because they meet monthly. And then they discussed a lot of resources that can help with those subcommittees. There's a lot of resources, both in the schools and out of the schools, that work with the wellness committee. I think we covered all the capital stuff. Thank you, Keith. So I'm going to talk about that subcommittee. I don't think the policy subcommittee met since
I think
last
we're
meeting.
meeting next week or the week after.
Tuesday.
Something's on Tuesday.
Meeting Tuesday?
Okay, yeah. I was going to say, I was setting all my alarms for next week, and it was something's Tuesday. So I guess that's Tuesday. No, that's all I got.
Okay. Educational policy, none at this time. Development, none at this time. Distribution of personnel report.
So it's in your packet as of January 7th, 2026. So we had several hires, a couple transfers, a retirement, Mr. Gary, and a couple resignations.
Okay, thank you. We need to take some actions on meeting minutes. We need action on the open meeting minutes of December 3rd, 2025, and action on the Northborough School Committee NSC Operational Budget Subcommittee Joint Special Open Meeting of December 16th, 2025. Take a motion.
I'll move to approve the open meeting minutes of December 3rd, 2025, and the Northborough School Committee and the Northborough School Committee Operational Budget Subcommittee Joint Special Open Meeting of December 16th, 2025.
Second.
Motion by Lauren, second by Kristen. It's a roll call vote. I'm going to start with Joan.
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
And I'm Bryce, and I'm a yes. We don't have any approval, future agenda items, outdoor learning space discussion. I feel like this thing is just getting kicked further and further, but is there something worth us keeping that on for February?
Yeah, I think so. I think as we talk about the Beasley Building project,
Okay.
it's a nice opportunity to bring that to light. So I think I would keep it on.
And is there any opportunity during our tours to see any potential outdoor learning spaces at the two schools, or do they currently have outdoor learning spaces?
I think the only two schools I'm aware of are Lincoln Street and Milliken.
Yeah.
Where's the outdoor learning space here?
It's in the
We're
courtyard.
all like,
Courtyard.
Is that the
It's
I
No,
guess.
it's the courtyard that way.
There's space in the back.
Yeah, there's a trail too.
Oh, is it?
Oh,
is
okay.
that the courtyard?
Yeah, there's a courtyard.
No, that's
right?
the, that's
the
what you pull
courtyard.
up
Oh,
from the street.
okay,
The courtyard's that.
got it,
through that
okay.
wall, yeah. Okay.
I think that's a good idea. And then we also have our multilingual learner presentation. We are going to discuss trying to get a budget presentation that puts it all back in, so we can take a look at that. And go ahead, Kristen.
Sorry, this may be later than February, but I was thinking, do we want to have a discussion about creating a resolution for MASC on basically asking the state to do a working group to look at the best school calendar for learners? Because that really needs to be
That's
like a
really
state
interesting,
thing. There's
yeah.
nothing we can do, but I would love to see the state legislature look at calendars across the country and say, okay, what's actually the best for learning? You
Yeah.
know, and how
Great,
might
yeah.
we,
And it's so in a way to say like,
Just tell us what we need to do.
in these calendar settings, these students are accomplishing more?
so yeah, so for example, like not that I'm an expert in this field, but I'm 99% confident, you guys can correct me, that there's at least some data showing that schedules, like, for example, where there's a shorter summer break and more breaks throughout the year, have higher outcomes.
That makes
because
a
they're
ton
not
of sense to me.
Right, so, there's a lot of states that don't have
Huge.
10 to 12
Yeah.
weeks off in the
Yeah.
summer. They have 4 to 6 or something, or even, and then they have breaks
Yeah.
throughout. So, but yeah, that's something I think would have to be at the state level, obviously, and then would
Yeah.
have to be probably a multi-year thing, but we could at least draft a resolution to give the MASC to say, hey, we want MASC to request that the legislature start a group to look at this type
Yeah.
of
It's a good idea.
thing. So,
You have my vote.
Totally.
Not that you need my vote.
I don't know, I get the feeling I just gave myself more work.
Yeah, I know.
Remember my goal at the beginning of the year? I was like, I want Northborough to have one of the resolutions.
Oh, that's
that we
right.
That's what you
voted on.
said,
That's what I
yeah,
said.
there you go.
Yeah, that was my goal.
There you go.
Northborough on that
All right, so that's a
resolution
2026 goal. I think Lauren just volunteered.
Yeah.
I wonder when resolutions are due. We can do some research.
It can't be too soon, right? The meeting's in November.
Probably by the end of the
When they
summer.
tell us.
Probably.
Well, and you may want to frame the other budget as the school committee recommended budget presentation, not the
Yes.
superintendent
Right,
recommended budget presentation,
Yeah, that's a good
let
idea.
us go to war for
so
you.
that we can pick sides.
Throw me under the bus. I don't care.
No, it's not throwing under the bus at all. That's not what it is at all, Kelly.
No,
It's
no, no, I'm
about
saying,
being
like,
able to
I'll
say,
take the hit.
like,
I don't care. I'll love for the
we as a
community
committee
Yeah.
aren't in agreement, and that's okay, and
Yeah.
here's what we would want. That doesn't mean that's what will end up there, but
Yeah.
I think it's totally valid to do that.
Budget, policy, and hiring.
Firing, calendar, throw calendar in there, and there's
At
our
least one of
four.
them's easy.
There's our four. Okay. No approval of bills and payroll, and then we'll come back to audience sharing.
Just one quick thing for future agenda item.
Please.
February, is Melican PTO presenting?
I'll have to look at the schedule.
Because
We
that's
did-
what
we did-
originally it
yes.
said, so if we could
Yes.
just,
Put it on your calendar.
Can you talk to the?
I'll have to put it on my calendar, come that day then to present. I'm trying to convince one of my other teammates that it would be a great experience for them to present to the school committee,
Love that.
so.
Okay. Audience sharing. Seeing none, no, you're good? Okay. Seeing none, I will take a motion to adjourn the open meeting of the Northborough School Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kristen, second by Lauren, second by Kelly. We've got a roll call vote. Joan?
Yes?
Kelly?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Bryce, I'm a yes, and we are adjourned at 9:11.